Welcome csc200 to ex8, the long-awaited ex8, after some glitches with Goorm that I've been figuring out. So it's nice that I've been figuring them out and getting through some problems, but it's delaying us a little bit. But I've just logged into Goorm, and I'm using the same account I used when I did the Goorm setup. And here's my container, the Goorm PHP container, and I'm just going to run it. And it may take a minute or so. Now, when your container opens up, you'll see your bash prompt here in your terminal. This is not your MySQL, this is your bash prompt, and you can do bash prompts in there, like start your MySQL server and things like that. And also, here's your container. I'm going to open this up just to see what's in there. And for everybody who set up their Goorm so far, I put this file in here. It's a text file, and if you double click on it, it'll open up in this little area here. And remember, you can move this around a little bit to see this, and there's basically 3 commands that you can use to get your MySQL started. You can use this one, the first one, and it's number 1, and you could just highlight it and just put it right here and paste it and then just hit return. And then you could use the Apache Restart, and I'm not positive you have to do this every time, but I've been trying to stick to this so everything works okay. So I'm going to paste this one here, the Apache Restart. That's the web server. So we just started our MySQL server. We just restarted the web server. And then what you can do here is actually just start MySQL. This will take you into the MySQL console. So if you type in MySQL and hit enter, you should be able to go in there and you'll see this kind of connection here. It'll say Oracle or something like that. And that means MySQL is running. So that means it should be able to interpret things like PHP and stuff like that. So if you would look at this file and open it up in a browser, you'll be able to see it. And I just want to show you something first. This is the glitch I was going back and forth with. We're going to make a folder called ex8. The simplest thing to do would be to go here and make a new folder and just call it ex8. That seems pretty simple. And we'll just do that. And if you make a folder called ex8 and we don't have anything in it yet, and we have MySQL running, and what I'm going to do is go to your project. And I wish there was an easier way to find this, but we just have to go to project running URL and port. And if you set this up, you've seen this before. And if you use this little icon here, that'll open up your URL in a new tab. So if you click on here, that'll open it up. And it'll go initially to the Goorm PHP. And if you go into PHP, if you go into this directory, it'll go to that index file. It'll actually go to that index PHP, which is in the Goorm folder right now, or the whatever they call it, the workspace that's set up right now, or your container. That's in there right now. And if you go at the end here, you think, oh, if I'm going to go and to ex8, because that's the folder we just made, and we're going to put some stuff in there. If I go to ex8 and I hit enter, now there's no file in there yet. It says forbidden. And I went through all this kind of testing to see, well, maybe it's because there's no file in here yet, but it doesn't work this way. It's very bizarre. And even Goorm is saying it's the same thing, but it's not. So here's what I need you to do. I guess I could cancel this temporarily. You could close up this because we have MySQL running, so you don't need this. You could close up that. And remember, when it's X, it means it's saved. And when you see a little asterisk, it means you got to do like a Control S or Command S if you're on a Mac to save that file. But anyway, I'm going to delete this. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete this because I created it with that plus thing, which seems like the same thing. But I'm going to delete it. And just so you see that I'm not crazy because I'm recording this, I'm going to make it a new way. And I'm going to go, now I'm going to keep my SQL running down here, but I'm going to go up here to window and I'm going to say new terminal window. And it'll open up temporarily up here. And it'll be the bash prompt. Because remember, this is the MySQL console. I don't want to do anything in there. I would have to put MySQL commands down here. But up here, what I'm going to do is something real simple. I'm just going to do mkdir. That's make directory. Make dir, just like that, and then a space. And then I'm going to make a folder. Now, make sure you delete your ex8 first. But I'm going to make a folder, and that's the way you make a folder. And you could do that in PowerShell and terminal and command prompt and things like that. That's the way you would make a directory. And I'm just going to hit enter. And you can see I made a folder. Now, that doesn't look any different than the folder I just made using new folder, or they even have a file new folder here. It doesn't look any different. You can see it doesn't look any different than the one I had. And I could close this up. I don't need this anymore. So I made a new directory that way. It's still empty. There's nothing inside. Now when I go here to project and I open this up again, and I had closed that tab, and I hit this thing to open up my main directory, and there's my Goorm, and I'll click on that first, so I go to that directory. And now if I append this and I put ex8 here at the end, you see the difference. Now I'm actually going to that directory. Now we don't have anything in there, but we'll be able to see files in there. And I already got an email back from Goorm, and they said, it's the same thing, but you just saw it's not the same thing. For some reason, if you make that file by using the makedir command in bash, it works and it's available, and if not, it's forbidden. So you just have to do it that way. I don't know why, and I haven't got an answer why, but I found out that it works that way. So anyway, that's how we're going to make an ex8 folder. I can't even upload an ex8 folder and have it work. It only seems to work that way. So you're going to put files in there yourself. All right, so what you're going to do now is you could go in here, you could double click on this, and you can create a new file. Now you could create it this way, so you can make a new file this way, and I'm going to click on new file, and you can see it's going in ex8, and we're going to call it index.php, not HTML. It's going to be PHP. Now if you're looking, saying that there's already an index.php, you can have an index.php in a new directory, in a new folder. So that's fine, just like you can with web pages. You could have index.html in every new directory if you want. That's like the home page of that directory. So we're going to put that in there, and if you put it in the wrong one, you can move it around. So we're going to put index.php in there, and I'll hit OK. And there it is. You can see that the folder's opened, and there's index.php, and it opened it up here, and there's some PHP code here. And if you put PHP code here, you know, if you just put something like hello, if you did something like that and you saved it, now you see it has an asterisk, that means you have to save it. So I'll save it. So now it has an X, that means it's saved. Now if I go here and I refresh, you see hello. That's basically, that means PHP's running, because if PHP wasn't running, if there wasn't a web server running, you couldn't see that. You wouldn't see that on a regular web page. If you just did it in your browser or something, you wouldn't see PHP code. So that has to be run by a web server to be able to do that, to have the PHP interpreter. That's why you could see the other one as well. I'll keep this open right now because we're going to do more with it than just putting hello. So let me go back to this, and we're actually going to wipe this all out. So we're going to change this, and where you can go is you can go to W3 Schools. We'll just copy and paste some stuff in here, and we're not going to use Python. Last time we used Python, and I'm going to go to W3 Schools, and I'll go to PHP, and I'll go all the way down, and I'll look for MySQL database, because we're going to be using PHP to communicate with a MySQL database, just like we did it with Python. We're going to go down to connect of MySQL database, and they have some things here about should I use MySQLi or PDO, and we're just going to go down to the one that says MySQLi procedural. I just think that's easier, and I means improve, so this usually works, so we're going to use this one, and I'm going to copy all this code here. Example, MySQLi procedural, I'll copy all this code, and you can see it's PHP code. It has the little bracket, the question mark, PHP, and it ends in a question mark. So I'm going to copy all this code, and I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to just copy it over everything. So I could copy it over everything. Now, one thing that you're going to see in here is at the very top, and you can make this smaller because MySQL is running, so we're not really doing anything down here right now. So you could even close that up if you want. Not close it up, but collapse it. And then if you need it open, so now that we have this code, and also if you need it bigger for whatever reason, I think if you click in here and do Control plus or Command plus, that'll make the code bigger in here if you need to make it bigger as you're typing, and I'll do that right now. Now you'll see server name, username, and password. Now we're going to keep it localhost because that is our server name when we're working in PHP-MyAdmin and when we're working here in Goorm. It's going to be localhost, and if we were working even locally, it would be called localhost. Our username is going to be PHP-MyAdmin. You remember creating that with PHP-MyAdmin, and you were able to log into that. So it's going to be PHP-MyAdmin, and then our password was root, if you remember that. So if you did that setup, that should work. PHP-MyAdmin and root, and they're in quotes here like a string, and that's all we're going to do right now. Now, there's just a little if-else statement here, and basically what happens here is there's a connection script, just like we did with Python, and you can see with PHP, they use $signs in front of their variables. So here's the $, that's a variable con, and it represents this function here called MySQLi connect, and it's basically connecting using these variables. So it's going to connect, And then we're going to run this little check connection thing that says if the connection, and basically if it doesn't connect, that's what the exclamation point means. If it doesn't connect, it's going to basically say use this little die command, and it'll show whatever error is there. It'll say connection failed, and then it'll have an error. So whatever error is generated will show. That's what this means, MySQLi connect error. So it'll show the error that came up with that. But this, it'll say connection failed right in front of it. These little dots are like little connectors. They mean concatenate. That means you're saying here's a string, and then here's the error message that's going to show up. And then here's a string. And then if you do connect, this is if you don't connect. If you do connect, it'll say connected successfully. And that's what we want. That's all we want to do for the first part of this. So I'm going to do Command S and make sure we see the X there. Now we're connected. And again, we still have MySQLi running. Now, if we go here, this is where we have that ex8, and you don't have to put in index.php. It's going to automatically go to index.php, and I'm just going to refresh this. And it says connected successfully, and that's what we want. That's the first part of this, and that means it's working. So that worked fine. Now we're going to change this because we don't just want to connect, we want to connect to a database. So that means we're going to have to make a database. And that's going to be the next part of this. So I'm going to take a break here so I don't make these videos too long. And what we're going to do next is we're going to connect with PHP myadmin, and we're going to basically paste SQL that'll create a world database. They'll just be countries. It's not a huge one. And it's only going to be one table, just countries, that's in there. But actually the table is called country. I should say that because you might want to type in countries. But anyway, let me stop here at part 1. And for part 2, we'll start working with PHP myadmin.